Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James and I'm the actor.
Okay, my name is Josh Neff. I'm the broadcast engineer.
I have no idea why I just did that. No
Okay.
idea whatsoever. It might have to do with the fact that I announced a couple of weeks ago to you that I got cast in another play.
Yes.
And yes, thank you. And I just heard myself say actor again. And
Yeah.
for real, like money, mouth.
Working actor.
Yes.
Boom.
Yeah, paid too. So,
Nice.
yeah, right. And about 2 weeks ago, I announced it on the podcast, and I thought they were going to make the announcement on social media, but they did not. So we had to cut it out of the beginning of the podcast. So if you wanted to edit that in somewhere,
No,
that's
yeah.
fine with
See,
me.
I'm not going to put that in because you said so many bad things about all kinds of people that I can't put that in. I
You know what's
saved
fun?
you, so that's fine.
You know what's funny about that is like half the people listening are going to be like, yeah, he probably did save him. It's not going to be hard pressed to believe. So yes, I'm doing a play. It's called The Lifespan of a Fact. It's about this writer, me, who wrote this essay about this young teenage boy, 16-year-old boy who killed himself by jumping off the Stratosphere Hotel in Las Vegas. And publishing company, a woman from the publishing company wants to publish the essay in her next magazine, and it needs to be fact checked. So this up and coming intern volunteers basically and says, I'll do it. And he finds hundreds of pages of things that are not factually correct. Ooh. And it's a struggle between an artistic idea and a factual idea, and what a tone and a mood and a worldview means versus this happened at 3 o'clock, this happened at 4 o'clock, and nothing in between happened. So those are the facts, but that's not the story. And so we butt heads.
Is there going to be a scene where it's like Magnolia, where Tom Cruise is sitting there with the interviewer, and she says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm silently judging you." Is there going to be that scene?
First of all, it's one of my favorite lines in a movie, and it's one of my favorite scenes in a movie. No and yes. I will not be in my tidy whities, and I will not be wearing a leather wristband for no reason at all. And I will not be taking my shirt off like Tom Cruise does, at least as far as I know I'm not, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to. But there is something strangely similar. Sort of. Yeah.
Okay.
It becomes more, it gets intense. It gets more than just what you think it's going to be about two people arguing over a 15-page essay. So it's an interesting play, and it's based on I'm playing a real person, and the other guy's playing a real person too. And the woman who's playing Emily, which is the character of the publisher, she's a kind of a combination of a bunch of different people. And so there was a book written about it, and then the book is actually the essay and then the fact-checking facts around what they argued about. And then the play was extracted from that. So yeah, I'm excited. It's going to be, it's heavy dialogue. It's a lot of stuff. And so we'll see.
Well, congratulations.
Well,
and
thank you.
I'm excited. I'm hoping to come up and see you and watch the play. So I'm excited to do that too. That sounds awesome.
It's just really interesting that I think I told you this on the edited version that, I was just got this itch and I just started acting to my dresser. That's for real. And I know I was just standing in front of my dresser. I wasn't actually acting to my dresser until I realized I was acting to my dresser. And I came out and it was raining. I told you this story. And I went to the other window and I looked out the window and I was like, uh-oh, here it comes. Itch, 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 itch. And I was like, no. I don't want to put the work in. And I literally turned away from the window and I was like, I'll be cast in a play in 2 weeks. My hand to your God and whatever else we believe, that's exactly the truth. And then 2 days later, I saw the announcement on Facebook. In less than a week, I was auditioning. In less than 2 weeks, I was cast. So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, congratulations again.
Well, thank you.
And I don't know if your play is going to be anywhere as tense and engaging and hilarious as Eddington was, but it's probably so far my favorite movie of the year. And
you're going to have to walk me through that.
Yeah. There's so much in this movie. And how did it hit you? Like what was the vibe in the theater? Because I've seen it twice now. And The first time I saw it was Thursday night last week, Thursday night opening night, and there was a lot of, I'm sure there were a lot of Ari Aster heads in there. So like, you know, they that are steeped in the history of Ari Aster and all of the things behind, you know, Ari Aster and what had inspired him to make the previous movies that he'd made and all that stuff. And so people were really like, I mean, there were scenes and there were parts of it that I felt were funny, but I don't necessarily like laugh out loud, but other people were laughing out loud. And there was kind of like it was a tension cutting type of a scene in the theater. Whereas when I watched it the second time, it was less people in the theater. There was maybe like 20 people in the theater. And there really wasn't a lot of like laughing or chuckling or kind of like as much engaging with like physically engaging with the screen. And I felt a different vibe that time. It felt way more subdued. And it felt a little bit more like people were feeling guilty or something. Like to me, this movie has only questions and no answers, and it only gives you complexity and doesn't simplify anything. It's not cut and dried. There's no good guy. There's no bad guy. There's people that do good things. There's people that do bad things, and there's people that are compromised in positions that they are in, and they make choices, and they have to live with their choices to a certain extent, but then they can also get away with those choices too. So that's the kind of crux of the film for me, and the way that he leans into a lot of his characters and has really, especially after seeing it a second time, the main characters, the main kind of core, like 4 people, like they're so well written, and I really don't have very much bad to say about this movie. I could keep going, but what was your kind of like feeling leaving the theater?
This.
Like scratching your head, like what did I just see? Or
I was grappling with, is it me? Side note, I was thinking about this earlier. You and I are two completely different people. Completely different. You are a believer in God. I am a want to believe in God person. And you are a straight man. I am a gay man. There, you are shaved. I am full head of hair, even though I'm losing my hair. So we're getting closer. But our connection is our passion for movies. And traditionally, we line up most of the time. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, if you put down our characters on paper, okay, without any judgment or out any generalizations, Paul comes from an artistic background. He's a theater person. He's been creative his whole entire life, yada, yada, yada. Josh comes from a technical broadcast engineer background, blah, 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 blah. You would think that this is the type of movie that would just light me up. And this would be the type of movie that would perplex you if we're talking about cliche stereotypes of what we see about each other on the page. And the opposite is completely true, which I love. I love that. I love that you have this passion. I don't even know if passion is the right word, but you have this understanding of films that are they're not even left of some center. They are way on the other side of your normal, traditional narrative American film. And I love that about you. So you're going to have to help me with this one. So the answer to your question is, what did I feel like? I felt like I don't have the language to understand this film. I don't have the capacity to understand this film. And we've talked about this a million times before, about seeing something in a museum. There are things that you have a visceral reaction to, which this is 2.5 hours of visceral reactions to stuff, which is not a bad thing. But there are things that you walk by and you go, I don't understand that. So you read the little placard and you go, okay, this is this, this, and this. Yeah. Oh, that's what that material is. That's what this is. Okay, this is supposed to be this, this, and this. So you have a different understanding when you read the little placard. And then they can give you headsets. And sometimes it's, hey, this color means this to the artist. And it keys you into why we're looking at something that people consider art. That said, I don't need somebody to spoon feed me. I don't need somebody to explain something to me. But when I came out of this film, I was trying to figure out where I was and what this meant and I was trying to let it just like go through me, and whatever reaction I had during the film was what I was feeling afterwards. And side note, I have thought about this film quite a bit since I saw it.
Well, that says something.
It does say something, but in the end, I feel like I need for him to slow down sometimes, and instead of focusing or not focusing on 35 things at one time, it would be nice to see it slow down. He did it in Midsommar.
Yep.
He did it in Hereditary. He can do it. And I think recently, Beau is Not Afraid, and this one in particular, he has been able to just explore whatever he wants to explore. And I would never say to anybody, no, hold on. You need to explain this to people. You need to say this. You need to make a point out of this. If that's what you want to put on film, then that's what you want to put on film. But I do believe that it would be nice if somebody went, maybe this, and this, save for that movie, and this, and this, save for this movie, and then that, and that go into this movie. Because this would have been interesting as a 4 or 5 part miniseries on HBO. So we could actually explore things. But I am aware that that's not what he wanted. I get it. I get what he was doing. Let's yell and scream at people about wearing a mask when your mask is down below your chin. I see it. But I think it could have been, for me, more impactful if he had slowed down. I'm not talking about the kinetic energy. I like that. I'm talking about how many different things do we need in this film in order to make his point? And if his point is there is no point,
No, I don't think it's. I don't think his point is there is no point. I think his point is that life is complex, and those are the things that I gravitate towards. I like complex characters. I like complex plot scenarios, but I like surface based, especially for something that's a drama, which this is. It's also a Western to a certain extent. I mean, it's out in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, which Ari Aster lived in New Mexico since he was 10 years old. So he is from out there. He also said in some interviews that I read is that he did interviews with people of different reservations. He did interviews with people who were in sheriff's departments and sheriffs and law enforcement in New Mexico, and with city leaders or town leaders in New Mexico. So like he did research, not to like be like, this is a document that is exactly how things are or how things should be or whatever. He just tried to like bathe himself in the people of this area and people who he knew about and knew of when he was younger, before he started making films. So he's trying to do a little bit of pre-work for that, and he's also modifying a script that was a Western script that he wrote 8 years before Hereditary got made. So this particular script, as it is right now, was not written 15 years ago, but it was a Western, a current Western, a modern Western, and it kind of morphed into Eddington, into what it is now. So what it seems like he's trying to do is he's trying to give a very like meaty, a very dense portrait of a situation to people. And I think, have you ever had those like Ben and Jerry's, or those like type of ice creams that have like a thing in the center? They've got like fudge in the center. Yeah. But then like you don't see the fudge. Like there's it's just covered in, chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream or whatever. And like you can, taste the vanilla ice cream, and you can eat the vanilla ice cream. And if you're like, I don't like the vanilla ice cream, you're never going to get to the fudge. The fudge may be your favorite part, but you won't know that the fudge is there because you didn't get through the vanilla ice cream at the top. Now, if he writes a movie where people can't get through the basics of the plot, where they're confused about the plot, or they don't understand the stakes, or the pacing is so slow or so fast that they literally can't understand what people are saying, like that's a problem. I don't necessarily think that he made a movie like that in Eddington. I think Beau is Afraid is definitely way more out there than this movie is. This movie is grounded in some kind of reality. it is conceivable, whereas Beau is Afraid is not conceivable in my opinion. So I think that grounding himself in the way that he's doing in Eddington is much better than Beau's Afraid for me. And there are still take your breath away moments in this movie and shocking moments in this movie. And some of those, after that first one really happened, I was kind of sold on the movie because I was like, I can't predict what's going to happen next. I just can't do it. Like, this is a filmmaker making a movie that will surprise me, that will challenge me, that will push me forward. And I'm not going to be able to say like, well, I know that, at the beginning of the third act, this is going to happen. And I know that like the denouement is going to happen. And I know, like, I'm not going to be able to really kind of like do what I did at F1, where I'm sitting in the theater and I'm like, oh, you know what? This is probably going to end up like this. Well, look, it did. All right, great. I had fun. But this movie, it added way more to me than a movie like F1, which I really love. I thought it was a great movie. But this is a different kind of movie. And this movie, it challenged me to look into certain things. There were things that were undercurrents that I didn't really catch on the first time I watched the movie, but then I dug in after watching the second time. So, I mean, it's hard to say like, wow, everybody needs to see this twice. But I mean, if you see it twice, like you may grab a few more things, like just some sequences of events, or knowing how close certain scenes are to each other, and knowing what's going to happen the next time, seeing how few times Emma Stone is in this movie and how effective she is. She's in literally 3.5 scenes.
She's filmed for a week. That's
yeah. I mean, and Austin Butler's in 2 scenes. Well, 3, I guess, if you count like him being shot like from a camera somewhere else and them watching it on a screen. They may have tried to sell it in a certain way, but it's not an easily sellable movie. It makes me wonder if people are like, wow, I really liked Elvis and Austin Butler. He's cool. I'm going to go see this movie. Maybe that'll be good for them. I don't know. But and maybe they'll be confronted with certain things. You're right, though. He doesn't stop. He doesn't let anybody get away with anything, whether it's, social justice warriors or, people who don't want to wear masks when there is a mask mandate, or city leaders who have the quote unquote town's interests in mind, and, machinations behind the scene, hypocrisy associated with, a city leader having a child, a city leader saying, hey, stay at home, and then his kids roaming all over the town. There's things in this movie that are, you look at that and you're like, oh, well, that's wrong. That's not, that's not right. But it was real. I mean, those things happened. Like, those things did happen.
Right. And I'm going to gently interrupt you by saying, I heard everything that you said, but even when you're describing it, you're talking about 20 different things. And I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with 10 of them being left up to interpretation. But I need 5 of those 20 to at least help this narrative move along. Because take a split second and tell me the narrative of what is the plot of this movie?
It's a small town sheriff dealing with the protests that arise after the George Floyd murder, and then how he deals with that situation while simultaneously dealing with a difficult home life during the beginnings of COVID lockdown.
Okay, that's fair. Plus a mayoral campaign, plus a son of the mayor who kisses somebody and his best friend sees it in its social media, and then the conflicting views of people who are Caucasian speaking about Black Lives Matter.
We just talked about Magnolia, though.
On, but that all comes to did we? When did we just talk about Magnolia?
Magnolia, Tom Cruise.
Oh, Tom Cruise, right. Okay, Sorry. You put me and Tom Cruise in the same sentence. That's what I heard.
There you go.
I'm fine with that. You know what? I'm going to try to work in that leather band around my wrist now.
There you go.
As the character.
See,
it helps my carpal
lifts.
tunnel for, oh no. And I'm also not going to wear what he War and Rock of Ages. Anyway, so in Magnolia, every single storyline on some level connects to each of them, and you basically get the same 3 or 4 themes. Sometimes you're done with the past, but the past isn't done with you. Be careful what you say. Children are listening. Be who you truly are, because it will hurt you if you're not truly who you are. You will get busted. Be true to who your nature is, because if you're not, you will fall from whatever and bust your teeth open. And then an apocalyptic type moment happens, which makes everybody realize that they are minuscule amongst all of this crazy stuff. And the movie starts off with, there was this deep diving swimmer and he was swimming, and then all of a sudden he ended up in a tree having a heart attack. And then all of those implausible things that actually, I don't know how many of them happened. I think a few of them didn't actually happen. The woman who's going to shoot her husband, and her son is falling, and then she gets charged with murder. They're all about illogical things that connect people together, whether or not you want to be connected to them or not. Father-son issues. Magnolia is broad but very specific, and then he does that brilliant thing with them singing the same song, connecting them all on some kind of universal level, regardless of whether or not we're talking about child abuse, molestation, father-son issues, drug addict issues, pain, death. All of the stuff that's in Magnolia all comes to a head and is very clear at the end of the film. If, for me, it was, at least. This film, Eddington, whatever P.T. Anderson did, I don't think Ari Aster accomplished. Let me stop myself for a split second. I will say this: the performances are outstanding. Joaquin Phoenix is a powerhouse. Yeah. That last sequence with him going up and down and running and falling and shooting, he's a powerhouse. He's technically, to some people, miscast, because he doesn't seem like he would be that character. I think he became
he's perfectly cast.
I thought he was perfectly cast too. I didn't have a problem with that. I'm saying that there have been some people saying he's out of his depths with this one. I disagree with that. I bought in it.
Yeah, you couldn't put Ryan Reynolds in that. You know,
well, you could. It would be different, though. It would be different.
But you need somebody who you can immediately feel sorry for, but then also like back away from them slowly and say,
John Hamm,
what the hell is going on? Then maybe,
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan Gosling could do it, but he's a really good actor. I mean,
they're all great. But my point is that Joaquin knocks it out. He is powerful, and the moment-to-moment work that he has, the stuff that he has to do. And so that brings me to one of his opening moments when he sees the guy not being allowed into the grocery store, and he says that very impactful line. What is he going to do? Starve? He can't breathe, and what are you going to do? Starve him now? So I thought that was an interesting way to introduce that idea of that character into the film, and how that played out was important. And since we're 25 minutes into the podcast, no spoilers, maybe a little spoilers from this point on, which seems odd to say considering there's so much going on. I don't know what
there's
you can spoil.
There's definitely things that if I would have been spoiled, I would have been super pissed off.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. But at the end of the film, Joaquin's character becomes exactly what I silently judged him on in the beginning of the film. He twists things and he turns things on. He becomes that cliche sheriff, heterosexual, Caucasian, cisgendered male, and that's okay. That's okay. I didn't have a problem with that. But what I was wondering about is, where does his heart come from? Where is he? Is he compassionate to that guy because he's on that guy's side about not wearing a mask? Because obviously he walks in there and he says, no, it's not an ordinance. You have to do this. You have to do that. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I wasn't judging him that. For me personally, the mask thing was, let's do everything we possibly can do to make this better for everybody.
Yeah.
And this way I can do it. Do I believe people couldn't breathe in them? I'm not so sure, but I wasn't one of those people. So listen,
The fact that Ari Aster gave him asthma, like that adds a little bit more to it. And it's kind
absolutely.
of like, it's not like him just being like, I hate this mask. It itches my ears. Like, it's not that. It's kind of like, I mean, you hear him, having difficulty breathing in certain moments, you know, at the beginning of the film. And I think it's really smart, because I think ultimately what it comes down to at the beginning there, and the ultimate like character trait or character moment in that scene, is he is seeing a community become less of a community at that moment. And he's not seeing COVID, because as far as he's concerned, COVID is not in his town. But what's the first scene of the movie? The very first scene of the movie. It's Clifton Collins Jr. as the homeless guy walking down the road, walking past the future site of Solid Gold Magikarp, and walking into the town over that hill. That is COVID coming to town.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they don't know that. He doesn't know that.
Right.
It's invisible. He has no idea. Nobody has any idea. As far as he's concerned, that people go into the grocery store exactly the same as it was a week before. So that's the complication. He looks at people being less of a community by having to wait to get into the grocery store, and he's sad for that, and he mourns that, and he's like, we shouldn't have to do this. It doesn't make sense. So then he voices his opinion, and he has a modicum of power in the town. I mean, and so that's where the conflict starts with him and the mayor in that particular point. But I mean, I guess he had seen the mayor the night before when he kicked out Clifton Collins Jr. But all of that, just to me, like it's so well done, where you can see from multiple points of view, and you can see where each person is not trying to be disingenuous, but they have their view, and they think their view is right, and they will enact their view, and the communication starts to break down at that moment. We haven't even gotten into social media, because the first instance of social media that I've seen, he's watching a YouTube video about getting your partner to get into having a child. That's the first time we see him. Oof, man. And so he does kind of start very forward with the Clifton Collins Jr. character, and then he goes right into social media at that point. But the first time social media kind of like pokes its head out real bad is when he gets the guy his groceries, buys his groceries, brings them out, says, "Here you go. You don't need to pay me. No problem. Just being a good neighbor. Have a good day." And the guy's like, No. I need to take a picture with you. And he's like, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll take a picture with you. That's fine." And then he sees that Facebook post, and then he sees that the guy's like, "Oh, the last good person in Eddington." And then that is the impetus for him to run for mayor. That right there, that one Facebook post is the impetus for him to run for mayor. That little bit of dopamine kind of like hit of like, hey, somebody tagged me on this picture. It's out in Facebook. Anybody in the world can see it. Even though probably not as many people as he thought might have seen it. But him doing the Facebook post saying he's going to be a mayor, more people see that. That has effects with him at home, with his wife, with his mother-in-law, all of those things. I mean, it starts to snowball from there. And that's the kernel of the idea that puts everything into motion. And it starts with a little picture that got posted to Facebook by an old man who wanted to go into a grocery store. So that right there is, to me, it shows you the complexity of life. It's the butterfly flapping its wings, causing a hurricane. It's that kind of a butterfly effect type thing. And people make decisions all along the way, but we get the eventuality of the end of the film. And I think that's really, really cool. So I don't want to try to defend every single beat of this movie, but I do think that that social media is a big deal. I think that the fact that they're right next to that pueblo, that reservation, and that there's a jurisdictional issue there too. He's pressed up against power and pressed up against other people. Not power, but he's pressed up against people.
He's pressed up against somebody
who are challenging him.
Right, but because he ends up being who he ends up, and the choices he makes later on in the film, he is exactly who I thought he was.
Totally.
And I was trying to not judge that and say, oh, is this that guy? Is this that guy? Is he like, okay, is he saying that his jurisdiction is here and blah, 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 blah? He didn't want those people, finger quotes, coming into his scene. And he makes it very clear, and he makes it.
Well, you know why, though.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different reasons why. But if you, and you know what? Maybe, I don't know. I doubt I'll ever see this again fully. And, but I said I'd never see Clockwork Orange again. And you,
you
talked me into watching it again. So, well, you didn't talk me into it. You were like, well, it's been 25 years. What do you think you'll.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Everybody's doing it.
Yeah, right. It's not far from who I am as a person. Anyway, so when I watched that scene again, hey, this isn't your jurisdiction. You guys are over there. His language is very specific. And at the time I was like, okay, don't judge him. Don't judge him. It is his jurisdiction. Okay, it backs up. The one lady says it backs up, and the other guy says that.
We got to do spoilers, cuz there's a plot reason to do that. Okay, let's all right, spoilers from now on, because like I don't know if you're having an issue with the plot, because I don't know, because the reason he had to be, okay, definitely spoilers. So please go see this movie if you like Ari Aster, but I think it's definitely worth a watch, a single watch at least. So he has to be on the reservation land to get the shot at Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and he doesn't pick up so ultimately
he steps on the one.
Yeah, he steps on the one. There's a bullet there.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how they found it. That's kind of amazing that they found it. But either way,
that's their job.
It's their job. So anyway, he thinks it's the quote unquote perfect crime because, no trace of him being over there. Nobody's going to think it. Nobody's going to even look at the crime scene over there or think there's a crime scene over there. He's going to have carte blanche for the crime scene. Nobody's going to even analyze the crime scene because the other guys that he has are going to just default to him. So the fact that the reservation police are there, like, throws a wrench in his whole thing. So he's just trying to consolidate as much as he can into, well, if I have to allow them over there, then I can at least prevent them from getting into the house. Because if they get into the house, then they may see certain things that I wasn't able to adjust, or maybe, whatever. So, like, that's the reason why he doesn't want them in the house. And he's just pissed off that they're there anyway, because he didn't
until
even think
he frames the black guy for the murder.
But he
based
already
on
had
his
that.
pissed offness about BLM.
Yeah. I think that he's looking for
based
a way
on the
out.
Easiness that
Yes.
he can do this.
He's looking for a way out, and that's
so you're telling me that when he
easiest way.
points at that guy who's a Native American and says, "Get out of here, you guys," there's not an undertone of racism there.
Probably, to do what he does. Yeah, totally. But where I'm going,
if he didn't do, okay, hold on a second. But if he didn't do what he does later on in the film, I would buy into that. And I know it's an insignificant thing per se, but it's important that this character is showing himself by each little scene and each little thing, and the dialogue is very specific. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I mean, I think that he's grasping at straws at that point. So he obviously, one of the first things that happens in the movie is him interacting with the Pueblo police officers, saying like, hey, you're parked on the reservation without a mask on. What are you doing? And him being like, oh, I don't need a mask. And then they're like, we're going to get out if you don't put a mask on. Like, we're going to come, we're going to like actually get you to either leave or put a mask on.
And a respectful person who's not motivated by a racially interjected DNA would be like, okay, no problem. I got you. Peace. What does he do?
I get it. I get it. But it's also a pissing contest. That's
Absolutely
your place.
Is.
This is my
but
place.
He
blah,
feels
blah, blah.
like he has the right to be pissing further and stronger because he's a Caucasian male.
That's fine. Sure. It's fine. That's okay. It's okay. I mean, I'm not saying that action is okay.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that this movie is complex enough to handle someone who can act with good intentions in one way, but then belie that by other actions.
But every single good intention that he has is based on some kind of concept about how he feels like his way is the right way.
Sure.
He goes into that store and he actually has that conversation with Pedro Pascal, who's excellent in this too, even though he's in just a few scenes, but he's strong. That man is strong. He's charismatic and just strong. He has that conversation. You're saying that the reason why he wanted to run for mayor was because of the social media thing, and I don't disagree with that. But if he didn't have that conversation about you have to take it to city council and you have to do all of this and blah, 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 with Pedro Pascal, that energy wouldn't have been focused on him directly. He could have found a different way around something like that. So what I'm saying is this. Yes, he can be doing certain things that are good for certain people, but he's doing them in a way that serves his self. Well, not selfish, because he is helping that guy out, but he's also making this political stance like, you can't tell me what to do. I can't breathe in the mask. He can't breathe in the mask. You know, that guy now would be breathing in a mask with another badge on his thing, doing other things in our society right now. So it's hard pressed for me to believe that even though he's asthmatic, that it was hard for him to breathe in that mask for the 20 or 30 minutes that he had to be in it. It strikes me as this character here, and it's not an indictment, it's an observation, that this character here is basing everything that he does on some kind of, I am at the top of the social totem pole, and you cannot argue with me at all, because if he was on that reservation and the reservation cops came by, which they do obviously, and they said that if he was trying to be better than the sum total of what he was raised in, he would be like, you know what, that's cool, you're right, not a problem. But he doesn't do that. Just like almost everything else is self-interest based on whatever thing that he's been raised to believe or think. That to me, he says something along the lines of, we don't have COVID. It's not even here. And then he later says something about BLM is not here. We don't have those kind of people here. He says something along the lines like that. Am I right? Does he say something?
He says, essentially like he knows everybody in the town and he feels like, oh, that wouldn't happen here. But then what happens? Literal Antifa comes to his town.
You know, there's a dispute. I talked to a few people. Yes, it is Antifa. That's who I thought it was too. A lot of people thought it was QAnon. A lot of people thought it was like, okay. And literally they come. Which is
hilarious.
Absolutely.
It's really funny. Like, it's sad that the bad things happen to people, but the fact that he says, like Antifa wouldn't come here, and then he's like, oh man, and then social media makes it a thing.
Sure.
And then they're like, ooh, this is an opportunity. The Antifa people are horrible too. Like, no, it's all bad. And it's all opportunists. But the fact that it's kind of like, social media is what flattens everything. No, people with those types of resources wouldn't know anything about Eddington if there wasn't social media. But like everything is everywhere all the time.
Sure.
And so that opened an opportunity for those Antifa people to show up in that small town and wreak havoc on it.
Right. Oh,
absolute
no doubt.
havoc, yeah.
After havoc's already been wreaked on it
Totally.
by the actual person who's supposed to keep the peace.
Exactly. He betrays his agreement and his commitment to his community.
All the way down the line.
Yep.
He says great things about that African-American cop, and then totally turns around.
He makes him a sheriff. Or no, he makes him a sergeant.
He says to him, go out there and practice. Go out, and that's when you see that scene, and then later on it comes back up.
But I mean, he makes him a sergeant before any of that stuff happens. Before he like comes up with the idea to pin everything on the black sergeant character. It makes you feel like he's doing things like initially, like he's like, oh, you know what, because that sergeant's dad was his captain. He wasn't the sheriff. And I think they kind of like, he kind of drops that in there. It's like, well, he only made captain. He didn't make sheriff. probably because he was black in a very small town, and that very much probably had something to do with it. But then he's like, well, we have to start somewhere. We'll have to to move up the ladder, all that stuff. And then he sees an opportunity to pin this murder on. And we haven't talked about the murder of the Clifton Collins Jr. character. That was like right after he gets slapped in the face by Pedro Pascal. Yeah. And he has to, walk away in shame. Yeah. And the and the thing goes off. He drives away, and the big sign pops off the top of his car. I was like, oh geez, man. That got a laugh in the first time I watched the movie. The second time I watched the movie, it was like crickets. And it's like, that's funny. Like, how is it? So are you like holding on to this like so seriously that there's no room for humor?
No, okay. But any answer to that question is going to sound defensive. So forgive me. And
I shouldn't have said it that way.
No. See, no. I'm not saying you're posing a question to make me defensive. It's part of my nature. First of all, I defend everything. It's just something. It's a quality I have. I don't know why I have it. I mean, yeah. I know why I have it, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not good. No, it's not that I laugh at uncomfortable moments in movies all the time that I feel like, nobody else thought that was funny. Okay. And then I do the ha out loud to the point where people are like, and I'm the only one, and you can hear the laughter going
ripples
down, like it's like smoke. You can smell it here, and then later on you can smell it down there, like ripples. Yeah. So no, there are so many things that happen in this movie that are for real stuff that happen in real life. And maybe if I knew that I should have my tongue closer to my cheek than not, then maybe my idea of what I'm watching would have brought me to more humor, but that's not my humor. That's not stuff. Things like that are not funny to me. Nothing in the film is funny to me.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I mean,
that's
not really.
Okay.
I can't think of anything. I mean, I was uncomfortably laughing closer to the end because you see all of Joaquin Phoenix, and then what happens to him with the mother-in-law is just what? So there was that, and the uncomfortableness of the whole idea of him being pretty much paraplegic at the end, and what happens to him and how that all plays out. And then the bedroom sequence, I'm uncomfortable, but I don't laugh at uncomfortableness like that. So yes, I thought it was amusing that it fell off, and it symbolizes that, his whole basis to run for this campaign is based on, glue and staples, and you in the wrong moment it goes off kilter, and
there's like all that, even on the side of the car it says you're being lied to, but it's YOUR
totally
being lied to, and it's like, guys, come on,
totally. There's another
guys.
Funny what's the one about the virus? There something it's come the virus is coming, something about it's coming out of Pedro Pascal, like this. Okay. There's not a virus, but the virus is Pedro Pascal.
Okay.
Not he's giving COVID, but blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I thought it was as awkward to watch them walk into that party and get the temperature taken, which he didn't do, and wash your hands with sanitizer, and there's gloves all over the place, and people are putting their mask on as he's walking by. I thought all of that was as complexly
but people
interesting.
Didn't have masks on, like, so
totally.
That's the whole, like, that is the reality. Like, those are the realities. People were like saying like, hey, it's lockdown, but then like I'm gonna have a party. So like, and you know what, I get it, I understand it, but like that's the part where it's kind of like it is the reality as opposed to the idealized version of this is lockdown.
Contradiction in terms. Yeah. I get it, and I thought that was an interesting exploration. But all of the stuff that we have talked about, where does it lead? Where is it leading us? Is it just in that moment. The sequence when the BLM, when he turns the corner and the protest it gets bigger. But the first protest, and he's yelling at them, and they're yelling. What was the point?
The point. The point of that protest is that the kid whose friend is the son of Pedro Pascal, that kid who liked a girl, the blonde girl, was usurped by Pedro Pascal's son, who wasn't really interested in her.
No, he just wanted that Instagram moment.
Yeah, he just wanted to be able to,
because he wouldn't be looking at the camera if he didn't.
Well, yeah, he just wanted to be able to like stick it to his ostensibly friend,
because he could.
Because he's like, you know what, I've got better game than you do, and I can get girls and you can't. So here's another example of that, or whatever. But then that kid, the white kid, he set up that protest. Like on Instagram, there was like a single thing on there that says like protest at 2 p.m. on the square, this is the protest for George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, blah, 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 blah. And if it's all white people there, and that's the funny part. And that girl, she has some amazing lines. She's pretty good, actually. She seems like she has that like manic energy, but is also trying to like stick to talking points. And like that, a lot of that stuff was just like really funny where it's, they're parroting, words that they've heard. And especially like, he really drives that home. Ari Aster drives that home by having that white kid, it kind of like extends into him sitting, at the dinner table with his parents. And he's like, it's all we can.
That was funny.
Yeah. All we can look for is this, but we've got a long way to go. And his dad just looks at him and gives it a beat and just like delivers that line.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
hilarious.
Funny. That's funny, but that's also sad. It's also sad that
it's based in reality, and that like there is a need. There is something that is not working in our society.
Yes, but
this movie doesn't try to fix it. It
no,
doesn't.
I'm not asking for it to fix it.
Yeah.
I'm asking for it to explore why it's not okay for a young Caucasian male to spew the stuff that he spews, and
because it's disingenuous.
But it's not disingenuous. Who's to say it's disingenuous? Because
of what happened at the end of the movie. He's the guy who comes out with the gun and starts shooting at the guy, and he's like, "I saved you, Sheriff."
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
And then he becomes Kyle Rittenhouse. He literally becomes Kyle Rittenhouse at the end of the movie. And swings the total other way. He goes from BLM to, hey, I love the Second Amendment and guns, and now I've got a chick and I live in Florida. Like, he's transactional.
Right.
Which is what people are on social media. They just are.
I get it. But slow down. Because my point, and I'm talking to myself too, but when his father says, "What the hell are you talking about? You're white," I need the movie to explore that for just a few more moments other than a laughable moment, because that is nuance. There's nuance to that conversation. You can't discount somebody's observation of the world and, don't get me on my soapbox, but you can't discount some kid who's waking up, and I'm using that term on purpose, to the ills of his society, and then have that said as that statement alone, because he is Caucasian, means that it discounts everything that he's thought and felt up until that point. Even if that BLM protest was set up to impress the girl, which is the impression that I got originally. Okay. But that still doesn't mean, yes, he is spewing out stuff that he's heard, but instead of, I'm not saying that Ari Aster should have done this. I'm saying that whenever a person is exploring something different in this society, there are these cliche things woven into our DNA to answer them, to tap them down, to stop them from growing in that conversation, to minimizing his views because you can't feel that way because you're white. So my point is, what was the point to having that in there if it wasn't explored or fleshed out on some level? And I could say that about the majority of this film. And I get it to a degree that statement alone is the statement. I get that. But it led to, okay, you asked me how I felt. I think frustration would be the word if I had to put an adjective to it. Because I want to know why the caring sheriff who pays for the guy's food, who defends him, who can't breathe in a mask. I want to know why he develops into who he develops in, or is that just who he is?
I think social media pushes him to that. I'm not saying that he would have. I'm not saying that was never in him until he saw social media, until he interacted with social media. But I think that
obviously
that it's like if you're at at a fork in the road, there's the social media side and there's the non-social media side. He chose the social media side, and then he just kept going, and that got him closer to thinking that that all of this stuff is fine and that he is right and that he'll make it work, and that because he's getting fed the same things that like he's not being challenged because he's getting that same stuff in his feed.
That's my point though. That's my point is that the father was challenged in that dinner scene to hear his young son spew this rhetoric, whether or not it's genuine or whether or not it's organic or whether or not he's done any investigation into it. Sometimes young people spew stuff and then they read up on it and then they stew on it and then they figure it out. And then people go, well, yeah, hold on a second. You need to do this, this, and this, read this, this, and this, watch this, this, and this, and then come back and ask me these questions.
Yeah.
And he's just exploring something to his parents. And immediately it's trampled on by a cliche. So how does that get us to, okay, social media has this big influence, and you're saying that that young kid was influenced by something he saw on social media. He wanted the girl, so he spewed off something to his dad. Okay, that I can buy. What is it about social media that influences Joaquin Phoenix to release the lowest common denominator about his soul into killing Pedro Pascal? Because was that to take him out so he would be mayor, so he would solve these issues if Pedro Pascal was dead? That's never clarified. And then why does he take the son out? Because of a witness? Okay, then why does he take COVID-19 homeless guy out?
He does that first. He takes homeless guy out first. He cleans it up, cleans up the crime scene, gets away with it scot-free. Nobody says anything. Nobody notices.
Right.
Because nobody knows that guy. And that guy's like, he's like, that's totally fine because like nobody's going to care that he's gone. But somebody would care ostensibly. But ultimately that gives him the confidence to think that like, you know what? This is the way to do it. This guy, he slapped my face, literally slapped my face in front of a bunch of people. He embarrassed me and I wasn't able to get back at him or whatever, or I didn't like man up or whatever. And he gets, it's like,
so
dude.
I'm so filled with who I know I am by societal standards saying that I'm right about everything, that I'm going to murder people in order to get them out of my way. And then I'm going to pin it on people that have had things pinned on their whole entire life.
Yeah, we haven't even brought up the fact that Joaquin Phoenix's character thinks, Joe is his name in the movie, thinks that Ted, Pedro Pascal's character, actually like raped, quote unquote, raped his wife because of what we haven't even talked about that subplot, but it is a very important subplot. It's important.
It is important, but we're an hour into the podcast, Josh, and there are so many things going on in this movie that we can't. I'm not saying I'm not trying to argue. I'm saying that this is my point, that there's so many things going on that we're very passionate about, but we have yet to get to such a pivotal thing in the movie that it causes him to react a certain way. Like, okay.
But that's a complex
is it real?
character.
Is it not real? Is she lying? Is he lying? Are they lying?
I mean, I think it's pretty clear what's going on in that scenario. Him and his wife and her mom.
Okay. Then help me.
Okay. She, at 10 years old, was sexually abused by her father and was told to keep it a secret.
Okay.
And lived the rest of her life and was probably being sexually abused from 10 years old to 16 years old when she got pregnant by her dad, and then she ended up going out on a date with Ted, and then was aloof with him, and he was like, okay, fine. And then that gave them the excuse, that gave the family, including the mom and the dad, the excuse to pin a rape on Ted, the guy who becomes mayor later on. And then that is why the consternation between the mom and Joaquin Phoenix, and then the dad dies somewhat like a little bit after that, I guess. So and the mom can't, Emma Stone's mom can't, I guess she can't keep in her head that her husband, the man that she loves or loved, could have done that to her daughter to the detriment of her daughter for her whole life up to that point. And the mom, to seek solace, she goes to conspiracy theories, social media, online. Right. What is a thing? Like when you're confused about something, you need to find a thing that you know. And the thing that makes people feel like important or informed or whatever is that, like, you know what? Everybody thinks they know what happened to JFK. I really know what happened to him. Everybody thinks they know what happened with the moon landing. I really know what happened. Everybody thinks the world is round. It's actually flat, but I know and they don't. And so it gives you that kind of like little sense of comfort. And it also puts you into a community too. So all of those things, put together, that's where she sought her solace instead of dealing with the abuse of her child by her husband. She didn't do that. And so that's why when Austin Butler's character comes in, she also finds him on social media. Emma Stone finds him on social media. So, but he's actually the first person who is listening to her. The fact that he may be lying or may not be lying about what happened to him, I don't know. And they start, their holes start to get poked into his story at the table in the backyard or whatever. But he kind of glosses over that. And so, but it's the thing. It's someone to listen to Emma Stone is what she needs. Nobody has listened to her, and she hasn't gotten that. And she probably doesn't feel like she can go to Joaquin Phoenix to tell him what her dad did, because he was Joaquin Phoenix's boss. I mean, Joaquin Phoenix was there when he died. All of these things happened in this movie to tie these people to. Oh, you think Joaquin Phoenix killed him?
No, it's just so much, dude. It's just so much.
It's like a book.
So
like it's
much.
A book.
It's so much. It's so much.
Right.
But in a book, you have chapters and you have progression, or you have flashbacks, or you have this is the thought of this character. This is this chapter. And then you flip the next character and you go, oh, on this spring day in October. Then you flip to the next character. Oh, it was a day in October, but it was colder. It wasn't really like a spring day. Then you flip to the next character. Oh, it was fall. It was October, but it was at night. So it's like Rashomon. Is that the movie where you see it from everybody's point of view? Mm-hmm. So it's like that. This movie is so filled with all of that stuff. I cannot attach myself to it to try to figure it out, because by time you start to figure it out, you're on to the next one, on to the next one.
Okay, why do you think that I think that she was abused at 10 years old? Did I just pull that out of nowhere? No, she started making those dolls that were centered around faces and tongues and all that stuff when she was 10.
I love those, by the way. I want like 20 of them.
Creepy dolls.
I thought they were great. And I want the one of the head resting on the tongue. You remember how she described that one? I want that one. Okay. Well, I've talked to 2 other people about this film, and all 3 of you have a completely different opinion about whether or not she was abused, whether or not she was raped by Pedro Pascal, whether or not she's lying. One guy was like, he believes her because she says it at the end. It's her life. She has the right to say it. She thinks that the husband, Joaquin Phoenix, and the mother. By the way, what's this actress's name? Deirdre O'Connell.
Deirdre O'Connell.
Deirdre?
Mm-hmm.
How do you say it?
Deirdre
O'Connell. Okay. I love her.
She's great.
She's in that show Outer Range with Josh Brolin and Imogen Poots.
Cool.
Yeah, really good. And Pullman. century. Anyway, so everybody has had a different point of view about why that is, and I like that. I have no problem with everybody extracting what they thought was going on, because that's exactly what you're given in the movie. Everybody has a different way of looking at it and says a different thing about the truth. Okay, the mother, if you're saying she's in denial, her truth is this. Pedro Pascal tells that scene. Well, first of all, he's the first one to talk about it. Second of all, he tells it in such a straightforward manner, it's hard pressed to not believe him. Like, yeah. I didn't doubt him for a split second.
Me either.
And I thought that it was going to be one of those things where he did do bad things and he is now lying about it because that's what some men do. But I didn't get that sense at all. And then it's backed up by him making sure that his son is secure. So he strikes me as a good person, or at least trying to be a good person.
But then as mayor, they built a huge road out to a place that goes nowhere in anticipation for this big data center that nobody had officially voted on.
Right. No doubt. Politics, I don't understand those people. So, but then that's where the movie ends, is the desert night. We have the whole shootout, and doesn't he bust through the ceiling and
of a Native American history museum?
Geronimo. I see Geronimo. I saw something else.
Yep.
I don't know what the significance of any of that is. And that sequence is extremely well done. And
there's subplots we haven't even talked about. There's two subplots we haven't even talked about, but I feel like it's.
But that's my point. That's my point. So is this movie an infinite black hole of ideas that is... I'm not asking anybody to explain this movie to me. Mm-hmm. I'm saying for me, the black hole was too wide and it was pulling me in a thousand different directions. And some of the directions I could cling on to and extract something from, and then some of them I couldn't. Three things. Ari Aster has mommy issues, or seemingly he does, because he has, what is the deal at the end of the movie? Second, he also likes to blow people in the head and blow people's heads off.
He also likes to torture Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes, exactly.
It's crazy.
And he likes to do really crazy upfront thing. And I'm being a little facetious and I'm being a little funny.
He's got multiple horror movies in his
absolutely,
background.
absolutely. Yeah. But it all has to do with the head. He does a lot of head stuff. And I'm being a little facetious and I'm trying to be a little light in the humor about it, because that scene at the end, okay, I could extract that be careful of how you act in this world. Karma will affect you. So what ended up happening? He wanted the mother to leave. He wanted the mother to get out, but he never tells her to get out, even though his wife has left, right? That would have been the first thing I'd said. You need to get a hotel room. Get out, right? We've been trying to get you out. You said you were only going to be here a couple of months. Get out.
She
right?
was. There's a taxi cab outside.
Yes.
And the mother is packing things up. She's getting
Pedro
out
Pascal
on her own.
gets shot in the head. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt. But be careful of what you wish for, because in the end, his karma dictates that he is now going to spend the rest of his life as a paraplegic.
Because she sees an opportunity.
And in his care, which brings the theme of that plant into the forefront of the movie.
Did you hear that he's actually the mayor at the end of the movie?
Yes, okay. I did hear that.
Good.
I did hear that. Yes, I did hear that. But okay, so full frontal everything. Joaquin Phoenix, he slaps the guy slaps him back, and he says, "I'm sorry." Okay, it was also kind of sad because it's a little nod to caretakers that, sometimes they're human, or most of the time they're human, and this is a hard job. And now he is stripped bare, literally, to where he has no control over his life at all, to where he's flapping. No autonomy, because he's flapping in the wind.
Yep.
Literally. Okay. Then she gets into bed with him, and you're like,
this
what?
is weird.
right? And then it gets even stranger
Yep.
because the physical therapist or the
The
caregiver
caretaker. Yeah.
strips down and gets into bed with all three of them.
Yep.
So what?
It's hilarious.
It's I almost cussed.
Everybody's opportunistic. Like it's a whole like she's paying a guy to take care of her son-in-law, and whether that guy's a good caretaker or not might not really matter because he gives her stuff in the bed, and they're doing it right next to Joaquin Phoenix probably because they don't care. Because they don't care. They don't care about him. They don't care about
what.
They're utilizing.
What does
him.
that have to do with the rest of the movie? Does it have to do with be careful of how you treat people? This is how you're going to have your mother-in-law sleeping with your caregiver next to you while you can't do anything. Is that like...
I mean, everybody's looking for opportunities. And you know what? The marketplace is huge because social media is out there and you can do whatever you want. And if you do a thing in a certain way, people will pay attention and they will... I mean, shoot, we're making a podcast. But I feel like we're like the anti-podcast people because there's something about social media that I feel like is... like I said, it's flattening, but it's also potentially corrupting. Not to say that like social media is the reason why people do certain things, but social
taps
media
into something.
Taps into the innate thing that we have that we've never had access to before as a species, and now we do. And you know what's going to accelerate that is AI run in places like data centers. I use AI every day. So I use it for like coding, but I don't use it as like a companion or anything, but I use it.
That one guy did. I tried to send that to you, by the way. That's what.
Yeah, I couldn't get that. I couldn't get the link. But
it's her.
Oh, there you go. So it's the same
100%.
Yeah.
The wife is like, what?
Yeah, there you go. But so like that's why having the data center there throughout from the beginning. I mean, it bookends. It's at the beginning. It's at the end. And that one of the subplots is white people taking over native land and relating that to AI companies utilizing current like books, writings, art, any of these things, and utilizing those to train their large language models to then be able to generate things that are based on real human work, sweat, blood, tears, and then being generated by a company who needs these data centers to generate those things, and not giving anything back to the people that contributed to those models.
See, that's super interesting to me. And by the end of the film, I just could not connect that. And, the podcast has now helped me connect that. That is an interesting way to look at this. That's an interesting motif that goes all the way through the entire film. You're exactly right. Social media is the catalyst for most of the stuff because when he walks into the supermarket, people come up with the phones and he says something like, "You
got
fine.
a good shot."
Yeah, I got a good right. So yeah, okay. Well then, okay.
So down to the point where like the name of, I was like, why did he name it Solid Gold Magic Carp? Like that is a whole thing.
Isn't that Solid Gold Dancers? Wasn't that a TV show?
Oh no, I don't know. But
yeah,
I haven't seen that. But there's Solid Gold Magic Carp. You should look it up if you're interested. But it's very specific to like a Chat GPT glitch. Like it's a glitch token where if somebody said like, say Solid Gold Magic Carp 1,000 times, it would just start spitting out random different things. It wouldn't be able to do it. And it shows kind of like a vulnerability in how the large language models were compiled, is that they were using data that particular word is the name of someone on Reddit, and that Reddit person was associated with, like was one of the big contributors to the subreddit that was dedicated to counting to infinity, like literally counting to, like somebody would type in like 543,645 and then the next person would type 543,646. Like that's what these people are doing with their time, which, you know what? I'm amazed that they have enough time to do that. But there were so many posts by this particular user that it had a large weight in these GPT large language models. And so it would kind of like, it was a glitch, and it was showing kind of how, as a person, like I wouldn't care about if I was generating something to be able to help me with, writing code. I wouldn't care about a subreddit that is about people counting from 1 to infinity, but it got added in there, and it has more of a value than other things that are probably way more important in this particular, model. Now they've fixed it since then, but it's little things like that that are interlaced throughout the film that, like, I could go there's so many more layers deep that I don't even know that I could go. And that's the potential for seeing and finding more things in this movie is what makes me want to watch it again and again.
I will say this. You just sparked a thought. Maybe it's one of those films that I just, at this point in my existence, cannot connect to see all of that, to see through the sort of superficial things that I've seen and didn't understand. Meaning I saw things on the surface, not that the things in the movie were superficial, but maybe it's the type of film in 15 years after something, life experience goes a certain way, I can watch that film and go, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I see it this way, and that way. It didn't happen with Clockwork Orange. I felt exactly the same way I felt the very first time I saw it, just like The Exorcist. Thus the reason why I didn't want to see those films ever again. So this is different. I'm intrigued by what you said. I'm intrigued by Ari Aster. I think the performances are really great in this film, all the way down to the young woman, the blonde, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. Her name is Amelie Hefferly.
What a good name.
Yeah, Amelie is cool. She's right about the same age of, like, who her parents saw Amelie and potentially named her after that movie.
Probably. Yeah. I love that movie. And yeah, so maybe it's that type of thing. Maybe I don't have the artistic reservoir where I can dip into or just allow things to go this way or that way, even with explanations that from your ideas or what you took from it, I get everything that you saw. It just doesn't. I think it's a long way to go to try to be in the same place you are when the movie first starts, and which is nowhere but everywhere all at the same time. And that might be something I don't understand artistically. So, I mean, it is challenging and it is kinetic and it is crazy. And I think certain people are going to connect with certain things and be like, I knew that in 2020. I told you, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff, which is what they're going to extract from it. I just was frustrated.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm excited to see what Ari Aster does again. This was, to me, a bounce back from Beau is Afraid to a more mainstream movie, and it's still very challenging. So I want to see where his, like, I think he's got a There Will Be Blood in him, and I think this may be it. It. Yeah.
We're an hour and 15 minutes. You should have sprung that on me an hour ago, because wow. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, listen, I'm going to try to accept that and not be judgmental and animated about it. But inside my head, I'm going, don't see that at all.
Yeah. I think there's a lot in this movie, and I think that I'm excited to see it again. So, yeah. All right. Okay. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorandengineer.com. You go to facebook.com/actorandengineer, and we're on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. I'll see you next time.